Part 3. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 21. Chapter 21 Covetousness. Ahem. The two of them accidentally choked on their saliva and started to cough over each other. He raised his hand and said, "Third brother, don't worry, neither of us has any intention of coveting you." Chunan also nodded vigorously, "Yes, we are straight men who are straighter than steel." The two of them were not afraid of him. When they saw him waking up, they simply pulled him and asked, "You woke up just in time. Tell us, are you and Miss Yang having any drama?" "Lucian, what Miss Yang?" "That's the beauty of class 11, Yang Rongshan." Hearing the other party's name, Lucian couldn't help but frown. Brother didn't make it clear enough that day. Hadn't he already made it clear that there was no chance of him being with the other party, so why did the two of them still associate themselves with each other? "But didn't you say you didn't want to be called Woolen Pants that day? Now that they have even changed their names, your concerns no longer exist. Are you not planning to reconsider it?" "Consider your sister," Lucian scolded impatiently. "If you two like it, just do it by yourselves and don't involve me." "No, you don't like Sister Ning, and you don't like Miss Yang either. What kind of person are you looking for? Are you planning to find a fairy?" "But Sister Ning's appearance can be regarded as the ceiling of the campus goddess's appearance." "The third brother doesn't like it? Could it be that she really likes men?" Shang Xiang felt as if he had discovered some incredible inside story, and his eyes changed when he looked at Lucian. Lucian raised his eyebrows. "Who said you have to fall in love in high school? Don't you want to study hard?" The statement laughed rudely and said, "Third brother, are you not here to make fun of me? I can actually hear the word study hard from you in my lifetime. Why do I find it so funny? This is simply better than what he heard. It's still unbelievable when the other person says he likes men." Seeing the other party looking at me like an idiot, his laughter gradually became smaller. "No, third brother, are you serious?" "Lucian, fake," she said with a relaxed expression. "I'm just telling you what." "Third brother, how could you suddenly change your gender?" As soon as he finished speaking, he met the other party's eyes, and the latter couldn't help but fell silent. "Lucian, I want to study hard. Is it so unbelievable?" He argued with reason. "No, we are just scumbag students." "What do we mean by scumbag students?" "They refer to those students who don't study hard at ordinary times, and only start to rush towards the end of the semester and cram their time." "You suddenly said that you must study hard." A little scared, he couldn't help but wonder if the other person was possessed by something, or if he was stimulated by something. Lucian looked at the other person lazily, with a very clear expression of disgust on his face. "That's wrong, you are bad students, but I am not. Growing up, he always caused trouble, but that didn't stop him from having a smart mind. Otherwise, all the teachers who had taught him wouldn't have loved and hated him." Seeing that he didn't want to admit that he was a scumbag, Shan Yu couldn't help but tell him the truth. "Third brother, let me remind you that your last test score was the last in the school." Lucian glanced at the other person and said unhurriedly, "Brother is just too lazy to write. It's not that he can't write. Not writing and not knowing are two concepts, and there is an essential difference between them." Statement. Chun Nan. Well, they are shallow. End of this chapter. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 22. Chapter 22 Hostility. In the past 2 days, the news of Yang Rongshan changing her name has spread a lot on campus. After all, with the reputation of being the beauty of the class, a lot of people really pay attention to each other. Lu Ning occasionally heard gossip, but she never expected that one day the other person's name would be changed and it would still be related to her. I don't know when it started, but rumors gradually spread that the other party's new name was taken after her. Jian Nian and Shen Yu also said this, but Lu Ning didn't take it seriously. After all, there are too many people with the same name in this society, not to mention that they only have the same word, but also have the same pronunciation but different words. Besides, whatever the other party calls you is the other party's freedom. Don't say that the other party's name is Yang Anning, or Yang Luning, that is also the other party's own business. Just because Luning didn't care about it, it didn't mean that others didn't care either. That day I went to the toilet and as soon as I got to the door I heard someone talking. Ning Ning, your figure is too good, isn't it? You look good in anything you wear, I'm so envious of you. When Lu Ning suddenly heard this name, she thought it was calling her. She subconsciously looked up and saw three girls coming out of the toilet. When they saw Lu Ning standing at the door, the three of them stopped in unison. Lu Ning recognized at a glance that the one in the middle was Yang Rongshan, whom everyone had been talking about recently. No, her name should be Yang Anning now. The latter also saw her, and his originally smiling eyes suddenly turned cold. Looking at her with eyes that were 3 parts scrutinizing and 7 parts dissatisfied. Although they are in the same grade and have classrooms next to each other, they have never had any contact with each other. Such direct hostility made Lu Ning stunned for a moment. Yang Anning also recognized Lu Ning right away, because there were always people around her comparing the two. Especially after the name change, everyone was talking privately that they were named after her. The most important thing is that her relationship with Lu Xian is unusual, and many people secretly rumor that the two are a couple. And Lu Xian did treat her better than others. The two girls next to Yang Anning are her friends. They stay with each other every day, so they naturally understand each other's thoughts. Especially during this period, I have heard many other people talking about Yang Anning, and I have been feeling grievances for the other person in my heart. When I suddenly bumped into Lu Ning, I felt like I shared the same hatred. He immediately snorted in Lu Ning's direction and said sarcastically. Some people think that their names are inlaid with gold. If they call her, they won't allow others to call her. If others call her, they will say they are imitating her. It's really shameless. That is, it is necessary for us Ning Ning to imitate her? It's really funny. What do you call a little fairy, with a pure and lustful face? I think it's nothing more than that. This figure is a million miles away from our Ning Ning. You're right. I think someone is only 1.6 meters tall at most. He can't compare to our Ning Ning's big legs. I really don't know if those people have eye problems, but they actually take advantage of our Ning Ning, compare them with each other. The two of them were talking to each other, and they actually started to make comments in front of Lu Ning. It was almost as if he just said Lu Ning was shameless. Lu Ning also didn't expect that she would be ridiculed in a weird way by others just for going to the toilet. He couldn't help but frown slightly. She ignored the two of them, but looked at Yang Anning in the middle. The latter was also looking at her. Seeing her looking over, a happy emotion seemed to flash in her eyes, and then she said to the two people around her, "Don't say that, there may be some misunderstanding." On the surface, he was trying to persuade people, but in Lu Ning's opinion, it was more like adding fuel to the fire. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 23. Chapter 23. If someone fights, what does it have to do with me? The girl next to her glanced in Lu Ning's direction and said, "Is there any misunderstanding?" The rumor first spread from their class. Maybe it was someone who spread it himself. There are so many people with this name in our school, why should we say they are imitating her? She just wants to step on you and elevate herself. She doesn't want to see if she is worthy. That is to say, you are so talkative that you are bullied to the point of not saying anything. If it were me, I would have gone to the other party to argue with you. I would like to ask the other party if she is the only one who can say this word. No one else can call her? Are all the people who call her like her? Why are their faces so big? At the end, he pointed the gun directly at Lu Ning and said, "Student Lu, why don't you answer this question?" At this time, there are many people in the toilet. The incident between the two people quarreling at the door of the toilet quickly spread. Class 13. A figure rushed in from the back door and went straight to Lu Xian's direction. Third brother, go and have a look. There's going to be a fight over there in the girls' toilet." The man who was holding his mobile phone and playing games with his head down didn't even raise his head and replied angrily, "Go away, there is a fight, it's none of my business. I'm not the dean of students." "No," the visitor explained hurriedly, "it's Sister Ning and Yang Rongshan. They were having a quarrel in the girls' toilet." "Who are you talking about?" The next second, the person in front of him suddenly raised his head. As his hand movements paused, Gameover's voice soon sounded on the game interface. The latter was startled by the other party's eyes, and was stunned for a moment before saying, "Just Sister Ning and that one." Before he finished speaking, he saw that the person sitting in the original seat had already rushed out, but after walking a few steps, he turned back, grabbed the other person's shoulder and said, "Which toilet is over there?" Just the toilet over there on the second floor." The next second, the person in front of him disappeared again. "Second floor, girls' toilet." Lu Ning raised her eyes to look at the girl who was speaking, her eyes calm. The girl was originally quite energetic, but for some reason she felt a little weaker when the other party saw her. Just as she was about to say something more to regain her momentum, she heard Lu Ning slowly say, "Are you done? Finished? If so, please give in, it's very urgent." As for the other party's question, she just pretended not to hear it. The recess lasted only 10 minutes, and they had already delayed it for several minutes. As for arguing with the other party, Lu Ning doesn't think it's necessary. She is clearly looking for trouble, so it would be a waste of time to pay attention to her. The three girls opposite, including Yang Anning, were a little dumbfounded. I didn't expect that they would all talk about it for this reason. The other party is not even angry. Especially the girl who spoke before, her face turned dark and she breathed heavily in her chest. She gritted her teeth and glared at her. "Lu Ning, don't act stupid. I don't believe you didn't hear that we were talking about you." Lu Ning nodded, "I heard it." "So you feel guilty? You admit that you started the rumors yourself, right?" "As expected, we were right." "You are really shameless." Lu Ning's face suddenly darkened. "Enough. You said it was me who spread the rumors. Do you have any evidence?" She didn't care, but that didn't mean she didn't have a temper. "I ignore it just because I am too lazy to argue with you, not to make any argument with the ignore, which is the minimum respect for men." End of this chapter. The school sweetheart soft green plum is sweet and wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 24. Chapter 24 Murder and Heartbreaking. The expression on the girl's face froze, and she asked Yang Anning and another girl next to her in a low voice, what did she mean by what she just said? Yang Anning couldn't help but look a little ugly. She did understand, but it was precisely because she understood that her expression turned ugly. She was saying that not arguing with ignorant people is the most basic respect for people. So, she was scolding me for being ignorant. To be precise, she was scolding the three of them. The girl next to her reacted and immediately became furious. Pointing at Lu Ning, he said, "Don't think that just because you deny it, you can prove your innocence. We all know this kind of thing very well. It's what you did, and it's useless to deny it. Lu Ning, there is no need to prove my innocence to anyone, but you are so concerned about rumors. Is it because the rumors tell the truth, so you become angry and angry?" She didn't know why the other party insisted that she was the one who spread the rumor, But she didn't care even if he knew. What other people think of her is not that important. She will only care about the people she cares about. You. The latter didn't expect her to be so sharp-tongued, and it was nothing more than murder and heart-wrenching. In anger, he stepped forward and reached out to slap Lu Ning in the face. However, Lu Ning grabbed her wrist and said, "I'll teach you another lesson. Before attacking others, it's best to find out whether you are their opponent. After all, giving away someone's head is really stupid. Moreover, it will also appear that you are very incompetent." The other party didn't expect that Lu Ning looked so delicate and soft, but her hand was so strong. She struggled several times but couldn't get rid of it. He could only stare at the other party fiercely, and in anger, he blurted out, "Lu Ning, don't think that you are great because Lu Xian is protecting you. When he has a girlfriend, will you continue to be as arrogant as you are now? I can't teach you a lesson, but there is always someone who can." Lu Ning didn't expect that she would suddenly pull out Lu Xian, but thinking that everything happened today was because of him, it wasn't that surprising. He just looked at the girl calmly and said, "I don't need anyone to protect me, because I can protect myself." This is her real confidence. As for what you said, people who can teach me, I think I have never offended anyone, but if someone really wants to make things difficult for me, I have nothing to fear. You. The latter couldn't help but want to retort, but his hand was still holding the other's, and he was speechless for a while. Seeing more and more people running over to watch the fun, especially when she caught a glimpse of a familiar figure appearing in her sight, Yang Anning's expression tightened, and then she stepped forward and said, "Lu Ning, can you let her go first? There is no harm in fighting for me. We are all classmates, there is no need to make it ugly." Lu Ning glanced at the other party indifferently. "I don't know what you mean by maliciousness. But just now the two of them were running against me overtly and covertly. I think you saw it too. Why didn't you come out to speak at that time? Now it's true. Classmates, it's just because they couldn't take advantage." Yang Anning's smile froze for a moment, and she took a deep breath and explained, "You misunderstood, it's not like that." Lu Ning didn't intend to listen to what the other person said, so she interrupted her and said, "You can think that you are smart, but don't treat others as fools." End of this chapter. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 25. Chapter 25. My kid is timid. The smile on Yang Anning's face was a little unsustainable, so she reluctantly said, "I don't understand what you mean." Lu Ning originally wanted to save some face for the other party, but seeing the other party pretending to be dumbfounded in front of her, she simply spread her words and said, "In the end, you just want to see others stand up for you. What are you hiding behind? You don't have to do anything, but you take advantage of all the benefits. When others succeed, you will naturally take it out. If others fail, the shame has nothing to do with you. And when you stand up at this time, you are speaking for your friend on the surface, but secretly you are probably using your own little thoughts. Obviously I am speaking for my friend, but in fact I just want everyone to see my reluctance and your innocence. If you really don't want to think about the conflict, you should have stood up from the beginning, instead of watching your friends run against me on the pretext of seeking justice for you, and then running out to smooth things over after seeing that you didn't get any advantage. To be honest, the way you behave is quite disdainful. I can only say that being your friend is really pitiful." After speaking, she glanced at the two girls beside her lightly. Hearing this, the other two people felt a strange feeling in their hearts. They all turned around and looked at Yang Anning, their eyes unconsciously becoming a little more complicated. Yang Anning's heart skipped a beat when the two of them looked at her. She managed to maintain the expression on her face and said, "You misunderstood. I've never thought about it that way." Lu Ning didn't care what the other party thought, and immediately let go of the girl's hand and said, "What you think is not important to me. Just please don't come to me to make a presence known to me next time. After finishing speaking, he walked past the three of them, but when he passed by Yang Anning, the other party suddenly let out a low cry and fell unsteadily to the other side. To others, it looked like Lu Ning had deliberately knocked the person away. Lu Ning's face couldn't help but darken. She was very sure that she had not touched the other party just now. She just wanted to go to the toilet. Do these people know what it means to have three emergencies? The girl next to Yang Anning supported her, raised her head, and glared in the direction of Lu Ning. Lu Ning, don't go too far. It's none of her business, it's just me who didn't stand up properly. Yang Anning grabbed the girl's hand and stood still, glancing in Lu Ning's direction and explained. Lu Ning said nothing. If someone likes to act, let her act. If no one cooperates, I don't know how she plans to continue acting. But she didn't speak, but she heard a familiar casual and lazy voice saying, since your legs are bad, don't walk around next time, otherwise you won't be able to stand still and injure others. Yang Anning couldn't help but choked, and the expression on his face was stiff for a few seconds. It is almost unsustainable. He saw Lu Xian pushing through the crowd and walking directly to Lu Ning and said, are you okay? Are they bullying you? Yang Anning felt anxious, fearing that Lu Ning would talk nonsense in front of the other party, so she hurriedly said, you misunderstood, we are just saying hello to classmate Lu. Lu Xian turned around, his peach blossom eyes were slightly raised at the end, and his lazy tone was a little more rude, are you thinking that I am blind? There are so many of you surrounding her, tell me, is this how you say hello? Besides, my kid is timid, what should you do if you scare her? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is sweet and wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 26. Chapter 26. Shut up. When Yang Anning heard what he said, her heart became filled with sadness. She tried hard to maintain the expression on her face and said, we really didn't bully her. If you don't believe me, you can ask classmate Lu. After saying that, she looked in the direction of Lu Ning, with an expression that hoped she could tell the truth. Lu Ning, they really didn't bully me. Yang Anning couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when he heard this. He smiled at Lu Xian and said, look, this is just a misunderstanding. We just had a few words with classmate Lu. The next second, Lu Ning's voice was heard to continue, at most, they suspect that I have spread some bad rumors about this classmate Yang and ask me to give an explanation. They also say that I am short and have bad legs, short and poor in stature, he's just not as good as this classmate Yang. The smile on Yang Anning's face suddenly froze. Who said that? I'm afraid they are blind, Lu Xian said lazily. His eyes immediately fell on Yang Anning and the other three girls. Except for Yang Anning, the other two girls did not dare to look at Lu Xian. Seeing Lu Xian looking over, he subconsciously avoided the other person's sight, wishing he could pretend he didn't exist. Yang Anning stood a little straighter. She had always been confident in her figure and hoped that the other party would notice. However, the other party took it back with just one glance, and looked at Lu Ning opposite him and said, girls, you don't have to be too tall. What's the point of having long legs? It's like holding two chopsticks. I think you are just like this just right. As for your figure, it's indeed a bit off, but it doesn't matter, I'll ask my mother to make more soup for you later, you should be able to grow longer, so you don't have to worry. Lu Ning. You can just shut up? It sounded normal at first, but who knew that the other person's words were getting more and more outrageous? Especially when I heard that the other party said that her figure was indeed poor and asked Aunt G to stew more soup to replenish her body, and if she could grow longer, I really wanted to tape his mouth. Why did Aunt G give him an extra mouth when she gave birth to him? Speaking of which, What happened today was all because of the other party. Lu Ning put the blame directly on Lucian. This is the bad peach blossom he provoked. She and Yang Anning had no interaction at all. Why did the other party cause trouble for her? It was because of this guy. Seeing the girl's face getting darker and darker, Lucian didn't realize it at all. In the end, he didn't forget to urge her, "Don't you want to go to the toilet? Go quickly. There is no need to waste time on unimportant people next time." Unimportant people, Yang Anning. Yang Anning thought that after changing her name, the other party's attitude towards her would change. Unexpectedly, the result was still the same. In the eyes of the other party, he turned out to be just an unimportant person, not even worth wasting time. She clenched her fists and was speechless. She only gritted her teeth until her lips turned white. Looking at the other party's appearance, Lu Ning was not so angry. After all, it wasn't the first time that this man couldn't speak. Over the years, she didn't know how many times she wanted to block that guy's mouth. But since this guy is venting his anger on his own behalf, I won't argue with him. As for Yang Anning and the other two girls, as Lucian said, they are just unimportant people. Lu Ning withdrew her gaze and walked towards the toilet. When I opened the compartment door, I vaguely heard Yang Anning's voice outside, "Lucian." End of this chapter. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 27. Chapter 27, Let me vent your anger for you. Lu Ning didn't hear what she said next. By the time we left, most of the people outside had dispersed. Only Lucian was left outside. "Why haven't you left yet?" Lu Ning glanced at the other party in surprise. Lucian was standing against the wall. When he saw her come out, he straightened up and said, "Next time someone bullies you, remember to tell me as soon as possible and he will help you bully him back." Lu Ning doesn't feel like she needs help from others. However, the other party also has good intentions. "Got it," she said. Lucian raised his hand and rubbed her head hard, then put his hand back into his pants pocket and said, "Let's go," then he walked up the stairs with his long legs. Lu Ning stared at the guy's back for a while, then looked away and returned to the classroom. Jian Nian didn't go to the toilet with Lu Ning because she had to catch up on her homework. At this moment, she already knew about Lu Ning's troubles from the classmates who came back first. When she saw her come back, she immediately pulled her and said, "Are you okay? I heard that Yang Rongshan is causing trouble for you." "My name has been changed to Yang Anning now," Lu Ning reminded her helplessly. Jian Nian curled her lips and said, "Since others don't know her little thoughts, I have the nerve to ask you for an explanation at the end." He winked at her again. "I heard that the third brother deliberately came from the third floor. How about running down to support you? Are you touched?" When mentioning that guy, Lu Ning couldn't help but think of what the guy said about her poor figure, and she couldn't help but feel depressed. However, Jian Nian felt a little relieved when he heard that the guy came specially to support him. "Then I thought about the guy who stayed here specifically to wait for me to come out and say something, and the last bit of anger was almost gone. In addition to always saying unpleasant things with his mouth, that man also protected her a lot. Forget it, just reluctantly forgive him this time. By the way, I heard that she confessed to her third brother later." Jian Nian's voice sounded in her ears again, with a faint excitement of watching the excitement. "Huh?" Lu Ning looked towards the other party. It took me a moment to realize that she was talking about Yang Anning. "You don't know," Jian Nian guessed from her reaction that she was unaware. "I went to the bathroom, and when I came out, the other person had already left," Lu Ning said. "I think it must have happened during that time." Jian Nian thought about the news she had heard from others and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Didn't she run to tell the third brother that she had changed her name and no one would take advantage of her again? The name made fun of her. What do you think the third brother said? He actually told her that he didn't like that face either and asked her if she wanted to change her face. Lu Ning. Okay, compared to others, that guy is more merciful to himself. She was really embarrassed this time thinking of that scene. Jian Nian felt relieved and excited. I heard that her face was particularly ugly when she left. By the way, I have known third brother for so long. Although he has never rejected a girl before, this is the first time that he has made a girl so shameless. It is much more cruel than the last time he rejected her. After all, it makes sense to dislike someone's name. It is extremely rude to dislike someone's appearance and even tell him to change his face. It's not quite like the other person's style. At the end, she stared straight at Lu Ning and said, "Why do I feel like third brother is venting his anger on your behalf?" End of this chapter. The school sweetheart soft green plum is sweet and wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 28. Chapter 28. My heart skipped a beat. Lu Ning's heart skipped a beat, and then she suppressed the weird feeling in her heart and said, "You're overthinking it. That guy always speaks openly. Maybe he really thinks that." That's right, Jian Nian thought about Lu Xian's personality, and it was not impossible. You said, she won't really go for plastic surgery, right? Lu Ning, no. How do you know? Jian Nian couldn't help but ask curiously when she saw her answer was so certain. After all, that person can change his name just for the sake of the third brother, because it seems that it is not impossible for the other person to have plastic surgery. Lu Ning, plastic surgery is not as simple as changing her name, and she looks good, so there is no need for plastic surgery. If it was for Lu Xian, it would be even more unnecessary. The other party didn't look stupid, and Lu Xian's words were clearly meant to embarrass her. No one with any brains can actually go for plastic surgery. It would be a joke if I really had to undergo surgery. That's right, Jian Nian felt that what she said made sense. She has lost such a big face this time, so she should probably give up on her third brother. As long as she still doesn't give up, I can only say that she really loves Lu Xian. Lu Ning was non-committal. She is neither sure nor easy to say about other people's affairs. On the other hand, Lu Xian's words undoubtedly threw her face to the ground. It's her fault too. The other party showed up just to protect the girl. She was too impatient and worried that the girl would discredit her in front of the other party afterwards, so she chose to confess again at that time. Also thinking that there are many people, so even if the other party refuses, there will be some leeway. Unexpectedly, the other party did not save any face for himself. Yang Anning held on to her pride and her eyes turned red after walking away from Lu Xian. Back in the class, the girl who had previously stood up for Lu Ning and made things difficult for her said angrily, "This Lu Xian is too much. He has no grace at all. How can anyone talk to a girl like that? Isn't it just because of his handsomeness? I really think that others it has to be him. That's too arrogant." "Yes, Ning Ning, I think you don't like him anymore. He is not the only handsome guy in our school. You are so beautiful and have such a good figure. Why are you afraid that no one will like you?" Yang Anning also calmed down at this moment, trying to maintain the pride on her face and said, "I understand, don't worry, I will definitely not like her again in the future." Yang Anning lost such a big face, especially in a he was embarrassed twice in a row. No matter how much you like the other person, you can't help but make him angry now. Let me tell you, this is all Lu Ning's fault. If it weren't for her, how could Lu Xian deliberately embarrass you? How about we find someone to teach her a lesson? When the girl thought about Lu Ning's use at the door of the girls' toilet just now, English laughed at their ignorance, and felt a lump in his chest, wanting to give them some color. Song Tingzi happened to pass by the three of them. When he heard the familiar name, he couldn't help but pause for a moment, and then continued to walk towards the seats in the back row. But he was a little interested in the chat between the three of them. Yang Anning caught a glimpse of a figure passing by from the corner of her eye, and couldn't help scolding the girl, What nonsense are you talking about? The latter was scolded by the other party in person, and felt a little uncomfortable on his face. Thinking of what Lu Ning had said before in front of the toilet, he suddenly felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 29. Chapter 29, They won't be together anymore, right? In the final analysis, I didn't want to vent my anger on her behalf, but she was good. Instead of saying thank you, she actually scolded me instead, leaving no face for herself. Looking in the direction of Yang Anning, the girl's expression dropped a bit. Perhaps what Lu Ning said was right. Yang Anning only became friends with them to use them as spearmen, and did not really regard them as friends at all. Yang Anning also realized that her tone was a bit hasty. Because of her good figure and good looks, many people like her, but there are also many who are jealous of her. Not all of the people who usually surround her really like her, and naturally she won't act sincerely towards others. She knew that many people were watching her jokes at this time, and she also knew that this was not the right time to fall out with the people around her. Even though she was in a bad mood, she still looked annoyed and said, "Sorry, my tone just now it's not good. This is a classroom, and I'm also afraid that your words will be heard by others. I just lost such a big face, and everyone is waiting to see my joke. I'm also afraid that someone will accidentally hear it. My ears are causing trouble for me again," Yang Anning said, her eyes turning red again. The girl thought about what happened before, and Lu Xian didn't give him any face in front of so many people. It was normal for her to be in a bad mood after suffering so many grievances, and to speak in an anxious tone. "Perhaps I think too much." Then he comforted her and said, "Don't be sad. This thing is clearly that Lu Xian doesn't know what's good and good. You like him so much and he even takes Jiao. And that Lu Ning, who keeps a harmless face all day long, I didn't expect you to be so scheming. I think Lu Xian's attitude towards you is so bad, maybe she is behind it." Yang Anning's eyes flashed, she remembered this hatred, and then she put on a victim attitude and said, "Forget it, it's all my fault, who made me like him. But I won't do it anymore. As long as you can figure it out." The girl glanced at her and couldn't help but feel a little sorry for her. Although Lu Xian is handsome and is indeed popular with girls, such a person is not suitable for dating. It's okay if you don't understand the style, but you don't know how to pity the fragrance and cherish the jade. A completely straight man. It must be hard to be his girlfriend, and sooner or later you will be to death. The only person the other party protects is Lu Ning. You said they won't be together anymore, right? The girl thought of something and couldn't help but say. Who? Another girl couldn't help but ask. It's Lu Xian and that Lu Ning. I heard that they had a very good relationship when they were in junior high school. They go to and from school together every day. Lu Xian also helps the girl carry her school bag. Even her pocket money is controlled by the other party. To say that they have nothing to do, anyway, I don't believe it." Hearing this, Yang Anning's face couldn't help but look a little ugly. Speaking of pocket money, Lu Ning only remembered it in the past 2 days. Because she blacklisted that guy after moving a few days ago, the two of them met much less often. Even when the other guy came to see her, he only asked her to get him off the blacklist. Lu Ning forgot about the pocket money, and several days had passed since she remembered it. Lu Xian has never asked her for pocket money during this period of time. In the end, it was she who took the initiative to find Lu Xian's wallet. End of this chapter. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 30. Chapter 30, Taking Care of His Pocket Money. I'll give this back to you. Lucien looked at the familiar yet unfamiliar wallet in her hand and said, "What do you mean?" Familiar because it once belonged to him, strange because he has not owned it for a long time. We are not in the same class now, and we no longer live together. It is not appropriate for me to take care of your pocket money anymore, Lu Ning said. In the past, Lucien would have been happy to be able to manage his own money, but now, since the two of them are no longer in the same class and the girl has moved, the two of them have less and less interaction. Sometimes I can't say a word for a whole day. He had nothing to do and couldn't just go find that girl. He always felt that the relationship between the two had weakened. Moreover, when this girl returned her wallet to him, she felt like she was drawing a clear line with him. Lucien felt a little uncomfortable for no reason. Tisk, after all, she was the little girl he had protected for so long, how could he watch her become estranged from him? Lucien, what's inappropriate? Lu Ning, it's inconvenient. Lucien lazily raised his eyebrows, what's the inconvenience? I think it's very convenient for you to take care of it. If you leave it here, I might spend it all in one day. Okay, I'll leave it to you. I want to use it, I'll get the money from you. Besides, it's your own fault. The matter of Lu Ning being in charge of pocket money was when the two were in their second year of junior high school. Because An was obsessed with playing games in internet cafes when he landed, and his pocket money was never enough. Jishu then came up with the idea of letting Lu Ning take care of his pocket money. I still remember that Lucien was not happy at first and made trouble several times. However, Jishu suppressed it forcefully and threatened to deduct half of his pocket money to make this guy calm down. At the beginning, Lucien felt that the girl had a soft temper and it was okay to let her control her. Who would have thought that when he went to ask the girl for money, the girl actually held her wallet tightly and said to him, "Aunt G said that you overspent on your pocket money last month. In order to prevent you from spending money randomly, it must be taken care of and cannot be given to you casually." Lucien didn't take it seriously at first, and thought the girl was cute when she was protecting her wallet. Then tell me, how can you give it to me? The little girl blinked her wet eyes and said with a serious expression, "You can apply first, and I will grant you the funds if I think it is reasonable." Lucien: "Okay, isn't it just an application? Then you give me 100 first, I'll use it later to cover the internet fee and buy some materials, 100 more should be enough." Lucien thought very well, but who knew that the little girl looked at him warily after hearing this. "Don't you want to skip class again and go to the internet cafe? Aunt G said that if you dare to skip class again, your legs will be broken. And 100 is too much, I can only give you 20 at most." Lucien: "At only 20, he couldn't even buy a skin." Lucien's eyebrows jumped twice. He looked at the little girl in front of him and said with a smile on his face, "Sister, let's discuss it. You give me 100 first, and I'll go to the internet cafe. Can't you tell my mother that I won't spend any money for the next few days at most?" "No," the little girl refused without hesitation. "Aunt G said that not only should I take good care of your money, but I must also watch over you and not allow you to skip classes and go to the internet cafe again. If you dare to run away secretly, I will definitely tell Aunt G." End of this chapter.